am calling this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I would like to state our mission statement, right? The Sitka School District will inherently develop Halatsini, our strength of mind, body, and spirit, to inspire and prepare students to be compassionate, empowered, and equipped critical thinkers within a global community. Let's do a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Sitka School Board acknowledges that our schools are located on the ancestral homelands of the Tlingit people who have lived in Sitka since time immemorial. We express our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Tlingit, for their enduring care and protection of Tlingit Ani. Could I have a motion to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda? Oh, actually, roll call.
Felix Myers.
Here.
Tristan Gavon.
Here.
Mitch Moore.
Here.
Todd Gebler.
Here.
Blossom Teal Olson.
Here.
Melanie Board.
Here. I would like to state that Mr. Moore will be leaving us earlier tonight. He has a concert to attend, so I wanted to let everyone know beforehand. Could I have a motion to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda?
I move to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Motion has been moved and seconded to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda as presented. Is there any public comment? Any board comment? Motion on the table? All right. Thank you, Mr. Hauser. We do need a roll call.
We need a roll call. Okay. Felix Myers.
Yes.
Tristan Gavon.
Yes.
Mitch Moore.
Yes.
Todd Gebler.
Yes.
Blossom Teal Olson.
Yes.
Melanie Board.
Yes. Motion passes. Motion on the table is to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda as presented. And is there any opposition to the motion? None. And seeing that we voted, motion passes. All right. We are going to, is it the personal report first?
Yeah, especially about government to government, recognitions, government to government, government to government.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, special reports, government to government. Is there any persons present to report government to government? Seeing none, moving on to item number 7, recognitions. 7A, Halatsini Students of the Month. I will give it over to you, Mr. Hauser.
All right, I'm going to just go down the line. We do have one microphone for everyone, but I'm going to go ahead and give the microphone starting with Mr. Gebler.
All right, I know this person. Madeline, will you come up here, please? Hello. How are you? All right, Madeline Philippek, is that right? It is the autonomy of our school motto. She is respectful, responsible, safe, and above all, kind. She welcomes classmates when others may turn a cold shoulder. She helps peers when they are struggling without being asked, whether it be with classwork or friendship. She stands up for those who don't stand up for themselves. Madeline goes above and beyond what it means to be a kind, kid. Congratulations.
All right, big smile.
Mr. Alford, can we stand towards the middle so that people online can see?
Absolutely, yes.
We will be expecting the next one.
Next time we'll.
The 7th grade team nominates Mia Matwick as the Halatsini Student of the Month. Mia is a quiet, confident, thoughtful student. She works well with all peers, helping others in a positive and polite manner. Mia consistently demonstrates high academic achievement, balanced with engaged and supportive classroom and peer interactions. Mia here.
I don't think Mia was able to make it today, so we have a couple students that weren't able to make it, so we'll go ahead and.
I have the Halatsini Student of the Month Award for Stella Rona, who couldn't be with us today. She's at Baranoff Elementary School. And Stella was chosen for Student of the Month because she takes the time to notice others, asking them how they are, giving them compliments, and making sure they are okay. Stella is a hard worker who takes time and great care with every assignment. Stella is a kind friend to all her peers. She notices when others are struggling and jumps right in to offer them help. Lastly, Stella has a joyful heart and a smile for everyone.
I hope Stella is feeling better in the coming days ahead. And I cannot wait to see her in person at our next meeting. And I can attest to Mia's amazing personality and overall outlook on life. I'm very blessed that she's one of my daughter's dearest friends. I have the pleasure to announce Pacific High School's Halatsini Student of the Month, Gus Maxwell. Gus Maxwell, I'm going to stand.
Come on, Gus.
I'm just going to put my ivory earring back into my ear. Gus Maxwell is the Pacific High School Halatsini Student of the Month. Gus is simply good-natured, cheerful, and positively exemplifies the PHS values of perseverance, honesty, and stewardship. His attitude is great, attendance is great, and he works hard to earn every credit offered to him in school. In addition, Gus takes leadership in the cooking class and has helped our new cook get better acclimated to her new job. Gus is often the first student to say hello when you walk into a room and or give you a solid high five if you are in his proximity. He is friendly to all students, staff, and visitors and treats everyone in a respectful, positive way. Congratulations.
Here.
Thank you, guys. Jasmine Wolf. Jasmine Wolf? Come on up. Jasmine Wolf is the Sika High School Halatsini Student of the Month. Jasmine consistently demonstrates the core principles of Halatsini: responsibility, compassion, and engagement. Jasmine advocates for herself, which can be a difficult skill as a teenager. She is also good at staying organized. Jasmine is a good friend and often will help to get work for her friends when they are absent. In the classroom, she offers help to anyone around her when they are in need. She is both patient and kind. She puts in a lot of time with her schoolwork and takes pride in doing well. Jasmine is a positive member of Sitka High School, and we are proud to have her as one of our students. Congratulations, Jasmine.
Get a group photo. Group photo, gotta get a group photo. All right. Congratulations. How about one more round of applause?
Well done.
Moving on to item number 8, persons to be heard. Persons to be heard is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board about a topic that is not on the agenda. As these are not agenda items, no board deliberation or action will occur in response. Questions for clarification may be posed by board members. The board may choose to refer items to the superintendent or designee for further action. The standard time limit for comments will be 3 minutes, unless otherwise stated by the board president, with consent of the board. A timer is used and a sound will indicate when time expires. All comments must be respectful, and charges of complaints against specific employees are not permitted per Alaska state statute. Members of the public are referred to board policies 1312, 1312.1, 1312.2, 1312.3, and associated administrative regulations, as well as to Board Bylaw 9323A. For information about how to lodge complaints, actually, I'll restate that. For information about how to lodge complaints. Speakers are also asked to please state their full name for the record prior to speaking. Is there anyone tonight? We have the timer ready. Please, welcome.
Hello. Mandy Summer, principal of Pacific High School. I actually wanted to comment on something, but it's on the consent agenda, and I don't know if that's appropriate at this time. Thank you. Just really quickly, I wanted to comment about the passing of the Pacific High School student who will be added to the school board. Express appreciation for that from the school's behalf. And just share that, you know, it's something that we've been working on actually for a few years. And I just spent the last 2 days up in Anchorage at the Alternative Schools Coalition meeting. We get together with all the other alternative schools in the state. First time in person for the last 3 years, and so that was fantastic to be back in the room with other alternative school principals and school counselors. And we shared with them, one part of the meeting is about you know, things that have been going well for our schools and challenges that we have. And I shared with the other alternative schools that this was coming in front of our board to have an alternative high school student on the school board as well. And I'll say that all of the other alternative school leadership was, I mean, hugely supportive of that. And there were comments made about how fortunate we are to have such a supportive board and school district office, because this is something that they can't even imagine happening within their district, even in the future few years. You know, a lot of other alternative schools are still getting pushback within their districts or within their communities. And so to see something like this happen within our district and within our community where, you know, we place value on the input that the alternative students have as well, really speaks volumes to the support that we have here locally for the alternative high school. And so I just wanted to comment on that and say that it you know, was a sense of awe, I guess, at our alternative school meeting that our district is taking such a huge step to bring voice from the alternative school students to the school board and our leadership process. So I just wanted to express gratitude and appreciation for that and let you know that it has been noticed. And we have other alternative schools who intend to go back to their districts and you know, initiate a process similar to ours in order to bring voice from alternative schools across the state to their school district leadership as well. So I just wanted to take a few moments to say that. So thank you. Not even rehearsed. Thanks.
Moving on to item number 9, school highlights. Keep pushing.
They do have a video, so it should be showed here shortly.
We wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to share some of the highlights that are going on at Keat, and special thanks to Mindy Berry here for putting our little video together for us tonight.
Sorry, 1 second, let me get this. Ready to start?
Yeah. First couple slides here, we wanted to highlight our second grade Clinket celebration that is back. I think it's been about 3 years since this has taken place. We started off with some dancing. Kids also got to participate in various art projects, and it was a real collaboration between our cultural department and Ms. Jules and her staff, parents, and our teachers to bring this back, and we really appreciate the pre-Thanksgiving tradition being with us again. It is concert season for Keat. Miss Brant Ferguson is extremely busy. She has 4 concerts, 8 rehearsals in 2 weeks, and of course she's just doing an amazing job. You can see Mr. Peter Apathy there in the bottom left. He stepped in, and her pianist was sick, and so Peter came and was a step in for us a couple nights ago. We really appreciate that.
Students were able to participate in making ornaments for the governor's tree with the Forest Service. And then we're really excited this weekend is the 5K fun run. So if you're out and about, 10 a.m. on Saturday, our boys are really excited, costume themed, so feel free to dress up this summer in December.
One of our teachers put together a gallery of gratitude, and students were appreciating staff with pictures and kind notes. Kids have been enjoying the fun. I wanted to point out a couple tables we were able to get for our covered area there on the playground, and special thanks to Miss Jules for helping make that happen so kids can sit and read and visit and stay dry.
We were talking much faster earlier.
I think Mindy put this together at her talking speed.
Absolutely. So we also have just started our KGH Peacemakers. So we have 5th grade students who have been participating in a 6-week training session with Miss Brooks, practicing solving problems and practicing playing safe, kind, and in a fun way. So our 5th graders are just finishing their training and will be working with 2nd graders in January. Enrichment has started back up, and Star Lab is back. Students are really excited. Miss Himshoot has been very busy with that. Miss Simic has also put on a lovely book fair. The students were really excited to get their hands on books.
Wanted to highlight one of our students being filmed for our 2nd step theme for the week. So each week they get to get on camera and
Sorry.
If I pause it, then it starts.
Oh, goodness.
I could pause it, but it starts on the over.
Oh,
there we go.
oh my gosh.
There we go.
We'll pause it for a minute and then we'll kind of go back to the giving
we'll
tree.
kind of go back. So the 2nd step theme, as you saw there, one of our students talking with puppets, and Ms. Brooks does a fantastic job prepping students for the theme. We actually have kids coming to us constantly asking to be a part of that in the videos, and so it's been a really positive thing. The giving tree here is an example of 4th grade classroom class project. They did a little fundraiser, and it's a tradition that happens each year in this classroom. They do a bake sale, raise money, and then buy gifts for children in the community, and go down to Wells Fargo and do a really nice lesson on just giving back to the community as well.
The Sunshine Committee has been extremely busy. They have established a new Kind Keat coworkers, kind of like our Kind Keat kids, where staff can be recognized and be appreciated as well. We also did a staff pie contest, which you'll see the results of that in a minute, but we also had our Spirit Days are continuing. Of course, Tutu Tuesday happens to be my favorite day of the week, but we also, of course, dress up for Halloween and do our Spirit Week. And then just started the Soup Mondays, so it's a perfect time of year to start that back up, where staff members take turns bringing soup, and we get together and eat our lunch together on Mondays. So our pie winners, I think we had 14 different pies. And we'll scoot over to that. Thank you, Chris.
Sorry.
It's the Remax.
Right, exactly. So we had our top 3 winners. Let's wait a minute here. Yeah, it's very delicious.
The winner is.
I know the winner is. Oh, you're just sweet.
It's anticipating.
I know, great. Here it comes. Okay, maybe. We're gonna go with PowerPoint next time.
What?
What's happening? Okay, well, I can tell you who the winners were. So we have, in 3rd place, we had Susan Ross baked a pecan pie, and then Carly Snyder was our 2nd place winner, and she's a new pair this year, and she made a delicious raspberry cheesecake. And then our winner was Mindy Bartalaba with her mango blueberry tart. So it was very delicious. And we'll see if those pictures pop up. Yeah, there it is. Back, there it is. Woo! It was a cute little intro and everything. Okay. Woohoo! And she is holding her beautifully designed pie award from Pacific High School, Mike Vieira, Mr. Vieira. So all other things that were coming up, we have Secret Santa going on right now, which has been really fun and exciting, and of course our winter party. This is so fun. Well, that was Mr. That was fun. We missed him, and it's not the same.
So a couple of things worth pointing out. Chris, if you can pause it right
There.
Right
Giving tree.
here?
little more. Little more.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
I'm not sure.
You want to go back?
Not sure what's happening at this particular point. It just won't
Oh my gosh, we're gonna go back.
cooperate.
Oh goodness. Yes. Number 1. Just kidding.
You can pause it on the last slide.
So-
We did want to point out on our last slide here that Mr. Ernie did finally have his last day after 26 years at Keat Shaheen, and we miss him already, and we're feeling the effects of him being gone. He just went above and beyond with the amount of work that he did in keeping our school clean, but also in most importantly, just the person that he was, and kind of the joy and vibe he brought to our school is so important. And we were able to do a little recognition, and he got to say goodbye to all of the kids there on his last day. And then we had a little staff meeting and a couple things we're doing to kind of immortalize him there at the school. We have a bench, it's a buddy bench that we're going to stick on the playground with a little quote about being the rainbow on somebody's cloudy day, because that is exactly what he was to all of us. Mr. Vieira made him a really nice, I call it a Kiki Shaheen dime with our killer whale, and staff signed it that we could send off with him. And Caitlin Bola came up and we had to trick Ernie for this, of course, but she was able to get a really nice photograph of him with the fall leaves. You can kind of see leaning against the bench there. That we'll put up in the hallway and just kind of recognize the years of service and type of person that he was for all of us. So, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So, as we see, like, all this amazing stuff is happening, it's really inspiring, really cool to see the kids having fun in the classrooms. But I was wondering, maybe, like, what is one challenge that you might have had recently that you guys have overcome and gone through that process?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest challenge, and I appreciate you asking that, the biggest challenge that we face day to day is a lack of subs in staffing. I feel like this year we're really kind of bare bones with the staff that we have. And then when we have staff that are out sick or traveling, or honestly, one of the biggest impacts for us, we're a younger staff, and we have a lot of teachers with young kids. An example, the kids will get sick, and then the teacher gets sick, and then the babysitter gets sick, and then the kids get sick again. And so, we're kind of fighting that challenge on a daily basis. And today, for example, we had 3 people out and 1 sub, and it was a matter of every morning figuring out how we're going to make it work and shuffling people around. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? And I do have to say, with that being said, I feel bad in a sense going and having to ask people to step up and step in, but I appreciate everybody's flexibility and willingness, to step in and make school happen for the kids every day. Like, the staff is pretty amazing and willing in all kinds of ways, but that's one of them for sure. So, yeah. Thanks.
Moving on to item number 10, reports and presentations. 10A, we have Julie Blanc and Jessica Christensen from the cultural department. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. I'll start. So I'm Julie Blanc, I'm Cultural Director for the district. And over the last several years, we've been working on this grant called the Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies Grant, or acronym SMACP, which has developed the ACT plus IT program within our whole district. And so tonight we are going to present just a very brief final report on what has been going on and where we hope to take this work a little bit. And I've shared some of this in my previous presentation, so it might sound a little bit familiar, but we thought it was really important with this pretty massive grant that we were able to share with what was able to happen in our district over the last several years. And so I'll pass it to Jessica.
Yeah. Evening, everybody. So I'm Jessica Christensen. I work in the cultural department with Jewel within the Arts, Culture, and Technology Initiative. And just like for a little framing, so the Arts, Culture, Technology Initiative, and up here we have our ACT standards, really came to be in 2013. That's kind of this year's ninth graders for kind of a frame of reference. And it was a real collaborative groundswell out of teachers that had some recent training, were really excited to bring that and keep it going within their work of the year. It was back at the time of the adoption and looking at Common Core and really thinking about these standards with math and language arts and really grounding them in the place and people of Sitka and working with community partners and the district to develop these standards, but also to think about what we value with connecting a lot of our content areas with the arts or with cricket culture or with creative uses of technology. So that's the ACT program as a whole. And so our symbol is often this idea of basket, and we talk about things being woven together. And it can get a little, like which program is funding what and how they all fit. So Joel and I often talk about like the ACT work has many different facets. You see it in the buildings in different ways or, different funding sources. So these are just a few of the programs that we have going on in the buildings that all connect with arts, culture, and technology. And then tonight we are reporting about that one in the middle, the ACT Integrated Teaching Project, which so gets a little confusing sometimes because it has a similar name. So while ACT Integrated Teaching, this resource and funding are coming to a close, it's just one of many pieces involved in really keeping arts, culture, and technology alive with our students. So yeah. The ACT project, the Arts, Culture, and Technology Integrated Teaching Initiative. So Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies is an organization that has a real deep connection to education and to arts, and they're really looking at teacher development and investing in teachers, getting people to go into the field, and how do you retain high quality educators. And so they approached 5 sites in the state of Alaska, and we were one of them, and 3 sites in Wisconsin to look at an idea of connecting a school district, a local arts partner, and a school of education, and really looking at innovative programming to bring people into the field of teaching and keep them with. And our work with ACT and also our ongoing partnerships with the Sitka Fine Arts Camp and UAS is a big reason we were approached as hosting these resources. It's gone through lots of iterations among the organizations, but our most recent grant time is that September 2018 to this fall, September 2022, this 4-year cycle. And the goal really is looking at competence, so building like a knowledge base and a skill set, so teachers feel that they have the tools and skills that they need to really bring arts and culture into instruction, and the confidence, like that they feel just really empowered to do so. So with this funding source that came along, there was this real interest in looking at future teachers, which would be high schoolers who might be interested in going into education. Here in Sitka, that's taken on forms of
looking at the Educators Rising Club between the schools and at Mount Edgecombe. And then during the time of COVID, looking at like the virtual career summit that was run out of the culture department. Pre-service teachers is looking at our systems of how we partner with UAS for placements, whether that's for practicums or just who's around, who's taking education classes, and can we get them into trainings that we are offering in the district, or support them and their host teachers as they're placed. But really what we have focused on are supporting our early career teachers. The grant funders really looked to funnel the majority of support to those teachers in their first 5 years of teaching. And here in Sitka, we have always made the case that to best support early career teachers, instead of supporting them in isolation, that you've really got to connect with that strong community of experienced teachers, our classified staff, and that deep knowledge that our paraprofessionals have, and administrators. For success to happen, you can't be on your own, or one of a few. So, throughout our various work with ACTIT, what it really has come down to is with the vision of the school district, and that we value arts and culture integration, we value kids and staff being, versed in technology, and really looking at culturally responsive practices. Our goals are that we're going to offer arts, culture, and technology professional learning. You can see one of our teachers from Blatchley participating in a weaving workshop in partnership with UAS and the tribe. So offering quality professional learning, and then really thinking about sustainable strategies that can exist when funds go away. And so since this 2018 time, again, going back to really investing in the broad community of our teaching staff, we really thought about tiered professional learning. So really having shared experiences for everyone, for district-wide in-services, school-specific offerings, joining grade level teams as they're planning, or departmental, thinking about the Collaboration Friday options. And then what's been really exciting is a real commitment at new teacher orientation for Jewel and Lucretia with the two co-directors of SNEP to really come in for explicit training with welcoming new staff in. And so currently, of our current teaching staff, 100% of our current teaching staff have gone through at least 2 days of training with culturally responsive education, or arts, culture, and technology practices, which is fantastic and shows a real commitment and investment. So one approach was really just investing and giving time and support to everyone, and then having potentially optional deeper levels of training, sometimes on contract, but a lot of off contract time. This is a photo from one of our summer institutes. When we first started, we did a lot in the summer with credit options, but we found they were great, but we kept hitting the same group of people over and over. So this has really been a learning process, especially if we're thinking of early career teachers, how to expand. So if they have other jobs or childcare issues in the summer, how could we be responsive to them? And so thinking about not only summer institutes, but weekend and evening retreats, and then when COVID happened, really looking at asynchronous learning, which has connected and supported. Some of our staff have participated in 2 years of training with peer mentors. We've had 4 cycles of collegial peer mentors, or having residencies, and just really looking at inquiries that people wanted to try and follow up on. So just grant language, our goal was that deep professional learning would occur with at least half for early career teachers, and we've surpassed that, which is great news. I mean, of
the numbers are kind of weird, but like over this period, there have been 40 people that have been at some point in their first 5 years working with us. 31 are still here. Of those, 26 have participated, and 24 of those have participated multiple times, which we are really pleased with and feel like it speaks to hopefully our responsiveness in giving people what they are looking for and wanting more of. We've had good numbers with our experienced staff as well, a variety of folks participating and coming back or asking for different types of trainings. This is from, it says on the other side, it says that this is a current 7th year teacher. This was a quote that she just gave at the end of her 5th year with some of the early teacher training with us. She still is teaching with us. But just really speaking to that, some of the training options, we emphasize something that you can take and put into practice tomorrow, something that you can take and put into practice maybe in about a week, and then something for a little longer visioning goal. And that's kind of the motto throughout. A bulk of our time has really gone to professional learning and supporting people with trainings, but we're really in a phase now of creating strategies that are sustainable. You see an image there of the Active website, and that right now is where we're putting a lot of our time and work with AmeriCorps support on making things accessible that have been built by teachers throughout this time periods. So we're really thinking about guiding things, like whether that's a core understanding. So over there you see the example from the K-5 proposed visual arts standards that have been piloted by a group and we're rolling out. Whether it's planning documents of how do I invite someone in, or how do I welcome a culture bearer and code design lessons with them in my room. Whether it's an investment in materials, so there is a larger purchase, but that is a portable audio mixer that can be taken on the road and shared among our secondary schools. Or whether it's training. So like I said, we have this bank of 82, 83 training videos that we've made in collaboration with Sitka Fine Arts Camp that can be used for future classes or for teachers to revisit, just to refresh themselves on what they might want to try, and can be used as a framework for additional videos that we want to do in the future.
So real quick, I've already shared this with you in the past, but I did want to bring it back just so you know that this is because of this grant. This is why this vision board came to life. And when we knew last year at the tail end of the grant, we wanted to hear from staff, what do you want to continue on? What do you value? What makes you want to be in the Sitka School District? And so this is what came from that conversation. And so as we look ahead, moving on from that key, we're going to continue to come back to this vision board to guide us in what we do with arts, culture, and technology. And then lastly, just to wrap it all up, the middle one, ACT, integrated teaching, we are losing. But because everything's so woven together, a lot of this work will continue on through all these other partnerships and grants. However, I think one of our goals this last 2 years has just been to create sustainable, long-lasting programs and initiatives to continue beyond whether we have the funding or not. So hopefully, as we go through the next few years and funding in Alaska, we'll continue to see this as a priority in our district. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
That was pretty fast and furious. There is a video, MacP allowed us to create a video kind of telling the story of ACT and kind of what it might be to an early career teacher and experienced teacher, and to create that as part of our report, but also as a sustainable artifact that we can use for future outreach and work. And so we will send that to you as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Gay?
not so much a question as a comment, but I just want to thank you both for presenting this. I think back to that 2013 Basic Art Institute that you referenced earlier, Jessica, and just how exciting that was at the time, and that leading into the weaving culture and the curriculum project, into the ACT standards, and it's just really great to see how the cultural department has woven this into the fabric of other grants and the school district as a whole. And also just want to thank you, Jessica. I know you've been working on this for quite a long time and kind of took that leap of faith moving from your teaching position at Baranoff into this position and getting this off the ground, and all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into it over the years. I just wanted to recognize that as well. So, thank you.
And I do actually have a question. So in the first part of the presentation, you talked about sort of how getting high schoolers into the teaching profession, and that. Could you just? I'm interested in exploring that a little further. So I'm interested in like what exact programs are we trying to put in place, and what is the goal with teachers? Like what do we want for that?
Well, at the peak of it, and you can share what you know, but Educators Rising was a club that was going on, and it was getting students to come together and think about education as a career. I think at some points they had opportunities to get some teaching experience or working with students. Just before COVID hit, I think it started to dwindle down for various reasons, and COVID happened, and so we weren't able to bring that back. So there's probably most of the high schoolers don't know much about that at this point because of everything that's happened. But when it was going on, it was mostly through an after-school club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I was running with Miss Starbuck, and I know that. I mean, she was really working with students on getting into classrooms, and then we were doing a lot of work on strategic placements of it, because we had some teachers who had gone through training of hosting someone in the room who was trying to observe and learn. And then COVID did happen a little bit, so it's a little bit of regrouping. And I know that there is still interest among the different schools of like getting kids in. The easiest way is often to go read at one of the elementary schools. But yeah, something we would like to see come back. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay, thank you guys.
Moving on to item number 11, board member reports.
Okay, great. Yes, so I'd like to start just by sort of going over what's kind of going on in Sitka High School, what we're doing over there. Part of Student Council, we're having Spirit Week next week as sort of celebrating the end of starting that winter break. I know the kids are very excited about having that time off. I think we all need a little bit of time to rest for a little bit and regroup. And so we're going to have Spirit Week next week to celebrate that. Additionally, with that, the Student Council is also putting on a food and toy drive for charity. So what we're going to be getting some toys and some food and donating it to, I believe, the Salvation Army and some other organizations. So that's really exciting that we get to do, sort of spreading that holiday cheer. Sports are currently starting up. We have the basketball program starting this past week. Last week they held their tryouts. The cheerleaders are starting up again. Mock trial is also sort of getting into the groove of things. I know that the All-State Musical Festival happened, and that was very successful. One of our students, Emily Blackman, actually ended up getting first chair for for one of the Alto 2 section, I believe. Alto 1. Yes, so that was very exciting. DDF has had 2 very successful meets in a row. They traveled to Haines, and then this past weekend they traveled to Ketchikan, and were very successful. I know the wrestlers are also having their season right now, and they're doing a very good job. I do have, school sort of, we're very busy right now. A lot of things are starting up, and there's going to be a lot of momentum building, a lot of activities going on, and as we move on into the next semester, a lot of good stuff's happening. I do want to ask a question though, to the board, just part of my report for my own curiosity. I noticed that there's going to be the superintendent evaluation, the quarterly one after this is over. And so just for my own curiosity, I was wondering, how does that process work? Who does the evaluation, and what sort of criteria is used in that evaluation? Who sort of decides what goes on in that process? It's something throwing out.
Todd and I are going to the,
Yes. Yeah. We have.
Actually, Mr. Gibbler, Mr. Myers had a question. So, Mr. Hauser is the board's only employee, and so in that process, since it is personal, I will keep it short. As a board, as a body, we will go over together because we hired him. We will evaluate and go through that process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. Mr. Gebler.
That's it? Yeah. I have more to say.
Oh, were you answering the question?
Are we allowed to talk about this?
Sure.
The
event?
Yeah, I mean, if
Would
you want to, I don't have a problem with it. No, I think, no, sorry. Yeah, if you want to,
It's most importantly, you know.
and I'm happy to answer some questions too, but I mean, it's really the board's, I'll sit back and.
I didn't realize it was, okay, yeah.
No, yeah,
Felix, we are coming up with these questions ourselves. We have questions that are exactly where they come from, I don't know. That would be a good question. ASB delivers some questions for us, and we answer those to the best of our knowledge, truthfully, with our own experiences. Each of us has our own interactions with Superintendent Hauser, and we look at the question and answer the question as best we can. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
I think that it does a great job. Yes, I think, yeah.
another relevant document would be the superintendent job description, which is pretty short. It's within the board policies, and then also the contract between the school district and the superintendent, which are all publicly available.
Thank you.
You keep us on our toes there. Thank you. I appreciate
Everybody.
Do you want to add anything, Mr. Hauser, since it's...
I know I really don't have much to add. The only thing I would say is, this is just, opportunity for us to check in, and, for me to hear from the board, at this point, any directions, any, kind of ideas, thoughts, feedback, and that's kind of what that midpoint check-in is, if you will, and yeah, go through it. It's a collaborative process, and, I provide some information on the same questions that they consider as they go through and kind of score themselves, and then it's all combined together, and ultimately that's how the evaluation comes together.
Great. Thank you so much for answering.
Mr. Devon, your report.
Yeah. So for those who are interested, I also submitted a written report for this month that's available on the agenda that's posted online. And the last month or 2 months have been fairly busy, I think, for us. We had our annual retreat, the ASB conference, including the one-day workshop on post-secondary preparation and completion, and then a number of other, important issues before us, including the SEA grievance. And, this has given me a lot of time to think, or a lot of things to think about, both in terms of the positive and the challenges we face. And so I've really, I think, maybe been in a reflective mood, as I sometimes tend to be. And for this report, I typically go off the cuff, and more details in the written report, but I just wanted to read from my written report, at least this introduction, and before going into a couple of the substantive issues. So over the last couple months, I've been thinking about the goals that the school board set at its October 14th through 15th annual retreat, and how we can collectively and individually move these goals forward. After 2 years of the school district being largely focused on its response to the COVID-19 pandemic and providing a quality education through extremely challenging time for students, families, teachers, and district staff, it feels like there's so much for us to catch up on as a board and a school district. Moreover, our students, teachers, and staff have still not recovered from the impact of the pandemic, and it only seems like the equity gaps have grown, student social emotional health has worsened, and teacher burnout has reached an all-time high. I have struggled to put words to paper for this board report, and only recently realized why. I realized recently that I feel something of a sense of hopelessness for where we are and where we have to go as a board, district, community, and state to ensure that every student in SSD receives a well-rounded and high-quality education. More than anything else, school districts across our state are underfunded and under-resourced, and there doesn't seem to be the political will to change things at the state or local levels. At the state level, the base student allocation has only gone up $30 since July 1st, 2016, from $5,930 to $5,960. Based on the U.S. Department of Labor's Consumer Price Index calculator, the current BSA would need to be $7,344 just to account for inflation since July 1st of 2016. This means the BSA is $1,384, or 23% lower than what it would need to be just to keep up with inflation, let alone to provide full and adequate funding to meet the growing educational and social emotional needs of Alaska's children and youth. Add to this the elimination of school bond debt reimbursement for school facilities by the state, and the gap between the resources we need and those we have only grows. This underfunding has real consequences, not only for our students and families, but for our teachers and staff. In 2022, the school district and the Sitka Education Association came to their first impasse in memory. Largely based on the school district's challenge of providing competitive wages and benefits to the school district's certified staff. Without a significant change in the BSA in the coming years, I'm not sure how we move forward as a district. Our teachers need and deserve better pay and benefits. But as a school board and as a district, we have no way to raise revenues, so are largely at the mercy of the state and local government, and by extension, Alaska and Sitka residents, and what they are willing to provide. So where do we go is what I've been asking myself recently. I have some ideas, but I don't have answers. What I do know and feel as a school board member is that we need to work closely at the local level with the City and Borough of Sitka Assembly, STA Tribal Council, the Sitka Education Association, Sitka Educational Support Professional Association, our district partners, students and families, and the community to advocate and figure out ways to, one, increase revenues for the district at the state and local level, and two, identify and implement innovative approaches to providing well-rounded and high-quality education for all students. Examples of this are the recent passage of the marijuana sales tax increase to support school activities, or our partnership with STA to provide dual enrollment classes in Northwest Coast Arts at no cost to the district. All this is to say that my recent pessimism and sense of hopelessness is tempered by a belief in the stakeholders I listed above, and in our district and community. But with that being said, we face many obstacles as a board, district, and community to create the unified front and critical mass we need to positively affect public education in our community and state. So anyways, thank you for taking the time to listen to that. Just some thoughts I've had that I wanted to share with my fellow board members, since we don't get an opportunity to talk with one another outside of these public meetings. And just to put this out there, I think it's an important thing for our community to be thinking about, for our leadership, across all of our governments to be thinking about. So just in addition to what I shared there, for my report, I did want to put forward, I've been thinking a lot about our board committees and the policy and the various committees that we do have active, the charges that we've given to them. And I do hope that sometime in the near future, potentially we could have a work session to look at that more. We covered some of that at our special meeting on October 14th, but I think it might be beneficial for us to look at that again and think about how we can effectively use our committees to provide more input, to provide more opportunities for engagement from all of our stakeholders. One in particular, the Strategic Planning Committee, we didn't move forward with that in October, and that's something I've spoken with Todd about and Frank as well, and would like to bring forward a plan either at our January or February meeting to reestablish that committee, kind of rethink it, because the original committee was really focused on developing the strategic plan, but I do think it would be beneficial to have a committee of stakeholders who can help inform the board, the superintendent, kind of on the monitoring and evaluation side of that, opportunities, a group that can advocate for the strategic plan and the needs we have that are captured within that plan. And then also just thinking ahead to the budget and potentially reestablishing that budget committee, or just thinking of a way to have more conversations with our stakeholder around budget, in part driven by some of those issues. How do we get increases in the BSA, or how do we collectively advocate for that at the state level? And then lastly, I just want to share, I had the opportunity to meet with Jill LaCrone as the liaison to Baranoff Elementary School, and it was a really great conversation. A lot of the things that have come up, in terms of both challenges and successes were things she shared, and I just highlighted a few of these in my report. Just the really large need that they're seeing among students for Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention, that's small group, and even in Tier 3 being that individualized intensive needs support. She estimated that about 50% or more than 50% of the students there are falling into that Tier 2, Tier 3, which is just a huge number, for staff to address their needs. The increased need for parent and family support. The pandemic also, kept parents disconnected, and they didn't get that regular support that they needed. Peer support and that interaction with teachers on how they can best support their students' learning. She also mentioned the success of some of the social emotional learning and extracurricular programs like Playworks and Drums Alive. The Playworks program is a non-competitive games-based program that supports students' social emotional learning. And then both the Ukulele and Drums Alive program, run by Joe Montagna and Jeff Hull, and just the positive impact that has had on students in the community there at Baranoff Elementary School. And then lastly, just the importance of early childhood education and the way that has been really reinforced, both by the pandemic, but then also our, kind of, I think what we would call a crisis in childcare, early childhood education here locally at the state. I shared this a while back that typically SICA has 400 daycare slots, and currently there's only 196 slots open. So students aren't getting that socialization, and Jill is seeing that at Baranoff Elementary in terms of literacy levels, in terms of just, imaginative play, social emotional development. So some things for us to think about as a board, district, community. And lastly, I've included a little Open Meetings Act tracker in here for anybody who's interested, the things I'm working on outside of the meeting and who I've had conversations with those about, as I'm only allowed to have conversations with one other school board member. Thank you.
I do not want to follow Tristan anymore. I won't go in front of him. I cannot say. What he said, there's some of that things, and not just to fall on his coattails, but he said a lot of things that I've been thinking and haven't known exactly how to put into words, and he put those into words quite nicely. we do need to have, I would say more work sessions, just to go over things like you said. You know, everything is there. And I feel that would be a great place to start. You know, I understand the Open Meetings Act. I do like the open forum roundtable where everybody discusses, but I understand the Open Meeting Act, and it's something that we can't really do. But work sessions, it definitely sounds like the way to go. And you touched on everything that I've been thinking of, or I would say everybody, that all board members have been thinking of, about the BSA, morale, things like that, and really needs to be worked on. And I do not want to follow you anymore. I do not have a 4-page report here.
Do it in our own way.
It's very, yeah, very impressive.
Thank you, Mr. Gebler. Ms. Board?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
we can. Thank you.
I'm on.
Good evening. Thank you, Tristan, for your very thorough report. I just have one thing I just wanted to tell you about. I had the opportunity to meet with Civic High as their liaison, and just a wonderful time spent there. And they are going to be having their culmination event, demonstrating their learning, and it will happen on December 14th at 5:30. And they're going to share a meal. Community members and parents will be there for the student presentation. So just wanted to give you the information on that. So thank you. And I'm open to work sessions as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Board. Hearing from everyone, I will finish up with my board report. Thank you, Mr. Gavon, for your very thorough submitted report, as well in writing, as well as how you spoke tonight. I think we touched on many different subjects that we as a board throughout these last few years have faced and talked about, and even communed with other school districts around the state with previous AASB conventions for people out listening. AASB is the Alaska Association of School Boards. And as we move along, I too agree that we need to actively work on putting more work sessions together to work together on many of these different issues that you brought up, because they have been ongoing. I think we're at a time where we are healing from the pandemic. We're at a good point where we can continue to get back to the discussions that we've had pre-pandemic, and you know, address the issues that have come up due to the pandemic. That being said, I do agree that as a board, it would be in our best interest to schedule work sessions, to seek out programs. I am happy to report that we are and have been selected to be a part of the grant that we learned about in our trip to Anchorage at the ASB convention. We are part of the Alaska Statewide Family Engagement Center. We learned more about that grant, and we sent a delegate December 2nd to hear more about how we can apply this grant to our community. So, with that being said, the ASB convention was, as always, a very, very well planned out, day in and day out meeting we started often at 7:45, and many evenings we were not done until 6 p.m. We, at that time, were able to listen to other school districts around the state who face many of the issues that we have been facing. I do have to say that I am a proud representative of our Sitka School District, and because of our continued work and working towards gaining partnerships within our city, within our tribal entities, within our community of arts and other organizations, we are in a good place. I would not want to say comparatively, but I'm always so thankful to be a part of the Sitka School District and represent the families that elected me. With that being said, part of the highlights was that we were able to bring our student representatives both from Sitka High School and Pacific High. I do want to report that they represented Sitka extremely well. They were both on the ending panel, and they both spoke so eloquently and passionately about the issues that they discussed during the time they had in Anchorage. And I cannot say enough that if this is the future of our leadership, I am very well pleased, and I think that we will be in very good hands. On a fun note, we were very happy to have Mrs. Board with us for one day of the convention, and she then was able to, I was very jealous that she was able to attend the swim meet state. And while it was a quick visit, I was very happy and delighted to forego a roundtable session to attend a swim meet to watch our two swimmers who were representing Sitka, Kalea and Emma. And Mr. Hauser and I were very excited to be a part of that and witness how enthusiastic and how much time and dedication not only the swimmers put into their sport, but the families as well. When it comes to my liaison work, I did meet with Sandra this past month a couple of times. I do have to say, Sitka High School, Mr. Myers highlighted a lot of the different things that we talked about and that were coming up. So I will save on time and say that Sitka High School is coming along with not only their activities, but as a district school, Ms. Lundvik assured me that it is a happening place, and it is. I'm very, very excited to have on my calendar a meeting with the student council, a lunch. So that's coming up as well, and I think I will keep that as it is. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your reports. Moving on to item 12, administrative reports. 12A, budget update. I will hand it over to Mr. Hauser.
All right, thank you very much. So you have the budget for December 02 in place that you can look at and review. Just a couple of highlights, not necessarily related to this document, but we are getting into the budget season and starting to have conversations. We do have a meeting with the Assembly on the 19th, a joint meeting with the Assembly to start conversations around the budget. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I just wanted to say that this is definitely the time, and I think that having and scheduling some work sessions to start having some conversations just around the points and the topics that Mr. Gavon referenced in his report, but also around the budget is a good thing, and we'll start looking at that and talking about some possible times for some of those discussions to take place. I did want to highlight in the enrollment update, we do have and have submitted to the state our average daily membership that was submitted to the state by the deadline. And while we are currently have 1,122 students in attendance in the Sitka School District, some of those students are part-time correspondence students, only count as a 0.9. The final number that we submitted to the state as our average daily membership was 1,112.1 students. That was 12.9 students less than what we projected. And so I just wanted to give everybody an update. The October count is finished, and that is our final number, and that is the number that we've gone through after looking at duplicates that were sent to us from the state as well. That is the final number that we are looking at for our average daily membership. And again, that number is 1,112.1 students, about 12.9 students less than projected. If there's no questions on that, I'm going to jump into my superintendent's report. I want to go through and highlight a couple of things that we have going on. As always, I like to start off with some celebrations that are taking place in our schools. And so, we have some great things happening at Baranoff. Obviously, every single day the kids are having fun. This month, students had a blast at the Turkey Tango Assembly. And the students got a chance to create some feathers on their turkey to express what they're thankful for this year, and had a chance to share them during the assembly. We had a crossover event when 2 wild turkeys from the high school actually popped into enjoying the Turkey Tango, and we have a little bit of video of that. In case you were wondering, our 2 turkeys were teachers Jeremy Strong and Mike Vieira from Sitka High School. And as a past music teacher, I have to say, I actually got a chance to see Mr. Holt today and talk to him. I loved Thanksgiving to do this because we had, and I remember teaching a number of different Turkey Tango songs, this being one of them. There was another one that was one of my favorites too, and so it just made me laugh when I was thinking about that. So I just wanted to celebrate and highlight that as well. Baranoff also regularly has SEL activities. You heard a little bit about them earlier. Here, Drums Alive and Bells had a performance, and we're playing. Another quick video I wanted to show.
Bells will start. Top, 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 top. Nice big high. Top, top. Drummers, are you ready? 3,
And positive experiences like this actually help the students learn and retain academic lessons. And a side thing, just listening to this too, it made me realize they're ready for the next, high school basketball game or something, getting ready for the We Will Rock You song. So just kind of chuckled as I was listening. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. So moving on, Blatchley Middle School recently had its Jamboree Spirit Week and week-long basketball tournament. This year, Blatchley hosted 4 teams from out of town, and everyone had a real great time. We have another quick video that I think is a nice way of celebrating just all the fun that the students had. And I think Neil Diamond is forever just still loving this, and everyone loves that portion of the song. No matter where you go, it's just, that is a favorite. So that was really just great to see. At Sitka High School, the wrestling team travels to Ketchikan this week for regionals, and state is in Anchorage the following weekend. Last week on Tuesday, SAS hosted senior night in the Performing Arts Center with a dual meet against Mount Edgecombe High School. Lady Wolves volleyball finished third in the 3A state championship. And Felix has talked about some of these, so I'm just going to make it quick. For Thanksgiving, the SHS food and nutrition classes baked pumpkin pies for the A and B dinner. The ingredients were donated for the pies by AC Lakeside, and of course basketball and cheer started on Wednesday. Other highlights, of course, is the National Honor Society hosted a Dress for Success event. Each week, Sitka High School recognizes a staff member for their contributions. And a staff member wears the wolf and gives a howl. And here's Andrew Hames, who received the recognition this last week. And again, some of the other things going on, DDF traveling. They went to Ketchikan this past weekend and took home most of the awards. Regions will be in Juneau at the end of January. Esports is finishing up with a few more playoff rounds this week, and the session will end before winter break. You heard about Emily Blackman and her All-State, Chair Award, which is fantastic. And then this canned food drive that's going on. You can drop off, if there's any donations, you can drop those off to the Sitka High School main office. And then finally, the Sitka High School robotics team is traveling to Juneau this weekend to compete in the Southeast Robotics Competition at Thunder Mountain. I would like to talk a little bit about testing. So we did talk about the results of the state test, and I have some results I'd like to just kind of go over. So I appreciate it's going to be a number of slides, but I think this is important information I wanted to share. And we've really been talking about the state of Alaska's new statewide assessment, AK STAR, which was introduced last spring and replaces the PEAKS. AK STAR is designed to provide families, students, and educators with information about student performance and progress in relation to English language arts and mathematics standards for grades 3 through 9. Students in grades 5, 8, and 10 last year also participated in the Alaska Science Assessment, which is designed to measure students' knowledge of the K-12 science standards for Alaska. As we talk about assessments, I'd like everyone to remember that an assessment represents a snapshot in time. This particular snapshot was from last year, the first year back to full day in-person instruction. These results offer some data points on our students, but do not offer a complete portrait of them or their accomplishments. So we're going to start with the Sitka School District's results for AK STAR and the Alaska Science Assessment. They are above the state averages by double digits. Here we have the district and state comparison by achievement level for English language arts. We show approximately 41% advanced and proficient, with another 25% approaching proficient in SSD. 3 out of 10 students in the Sitka School District are in the needs support achievement level. And here we have the AK STAR results for math. Again, this is the district compared to the state. We show approximately 38% advanced and proficient, with another 25% approaching proficient. In the Sitka School District, approximately 4 out of 10 students are in the needs support achievement level for math. In comparison, statewide, nearly 6 out of 10 Alaskan students are in the needs support level for math. Next, we're looking at the district and state comparison for the science assessment for grades 5, 8, and 10. We show 55% advanced and proficient, with another 20.7% approaching proficient in the district. These results are significantly higher than the state, which has 38% advanced and proficient. Digging a little deeper though, these are district results by grade level for English language arts. The green box with the up arrow shows the comparison of SSD to the state, with the district again higher at all grade levels. I've circled a couple of interesting findings. First, in some of its reporting, the state combines needs support and approaching proficiency to create a non-proficient category. But if you look at our third graders, we have a very large number, 41% approaching proficiency. So that's an important level of detail on student growth that is lost when those categories are combined into non-proficient. Another interesting finding is unusual score swings from grade levels to grade levels, or I sometimes talk to them as peaks and valleys between grade levels. For example, 6th graders, ELA in the district, only 11% of students are in the needs support achievement level. But in 7th grade, that number jumps to 49% needs support. Again, this was the first time for this assessment, so it's new to our students, and we don't have any comparable longitudinal data. Future data will give us more insights into these apparent swings or possible anomalies. AK Star connects with fall and winter map growth interim assessments. The district already administers those tests and those assessments, and they reflect learning throughout the school year and help educators target instruction to students' individual needs. Here's the math results by grade level. Again, the green box represents the comparison to state with our district above and all grade levels. The data will help us identify areas of strengths and needs and inform how we're supporting student instruction. We see more students needing support in math than in English language arts, but there's a bubble of higher proficiency in middle for 5th and 6th graders. And one of the things we have started up this year, or one of the things we're going to be starting up in the new year, is a review of our math curriculum and looking at vertical alignment between classes. If you were with us last year, you know that there are limitations in data for subgroups and assessments during COVID because of the lower numbers of participation. In the district, we had a fairly high participation rate for all subgroups in this assessment. I've circled some numbers of percentage advanced and proficient by subgroups that are continued areas of focus for the district. In red are the statewide percentages of advanced and proficient for those same subgroups. So statewide, the percentage of Alaska Native American Indian students advanced and proficient in English language arts assessment was 8.74%. In Sitka, that percentage is substantially higher at nearly 26%, but that is still 14% lower than the percentage of advanced proficient for all students in Sitka, and half that of the subgroup with the highest percent proficient. Next is the data on math. We see similar data for the math we did in English language arts, although we have a larger drop in math proficiency for the 2 or more races subgroup. You see that this report, like the ELA one for subgroups, combines the approaching proficient and needs support categories. So we don't see district-wide by subgroup how many students are approaching proficient and how many are in the needs support achievement levels. Julie Blanc, cultural director, and I met recently about identifying trends at specific grade levels and looking at individual student data so we can see where we need to expand intervention strategies right now. As we dig into these results, we're finding that the transition from elementary to middle school is one area that would need some additional supports. One of the things we'll also be doing next year with some comparison data, or one thing we'll be able to look at with next year is the comparison data, and being able to see those results, the results of the intervention strategies we've implemented this year, and looking at the impact of after-school tutoring, some study skills classes that are implemented, and seeing how that is helping, as well as some of the other resources that we're looking at providing as we dig more into these results. Schools have mailed to parents their individual student reports for the AK Star and Alaska Science Assessment results this week. They should get them by Friday. This is an example of the report for a fictional student and district. This is not a current student in the Sitka School District, and that's not it. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on that. And it shows what parents and students who are going to be getting these reports will see when they get those AK Star reports. The first page will have information on the AK Star and a breakdown of the AK Star achievement levels. The remaining pages will be the students' individual ELA and math reports. So that was an overall view of the district level data. I have some additional data from schools that I wanted to share. And so we talked about AK Star as a snapshot, and we have some other data points that I think really do build a fuller picture. At Kikushihine, they're wrapping up the winter benchmarks for both MAP and MAP fluency. They're about 88% done with the growth reading and 40% with growth math tests. Principal Demert reports that they're excited to see the scores compared to the fall and how much growth students have made. This data will provide insights again and help guide instructional practices in the school. And then as we see in these comparisons, the class averages for grades 2 through 5 are currently above the national average. Principal Demert also reports, as reinforced by the most recent BZ data, that Kikushihine has a high level of positive school attachment amongst the student body. In January, KEAT staff will have an opportunity to build on these positive BZ results through a staff training focused on meeting the needs of students who are living with poverty, are in foster care, or have other environmental stressors. Looking at the data, there has been a significant reduction in the number of students who are at risk for externalizing and or internalizing behaviors from fall 2021. 42% in fall of 2021 to 10% this winter, or 90% of the students are not seen as at risk for externalizing and internalizing behaviors. Blatchley has some behavior data on in-school and out-of-school suspensions and expulsion incidents from Alaska middle schools with students population between, so schools that have students about between 250 and 400 students. During the 2021-22 school year, when students first came back to in-person instruction, Blatchley had 35 ISS OSS behavior incidents. This is on the low end for the state, but the highest number in the past 5 years of Blatchley. But this school year, Blatchley has had only 4 incidents to date. Blatchley has not yet had a complete administration of the MAP test for the 2022-23 school year, but for math, each grade level made their 100%, made over 100% of their growth levels expected growth in math. And in the last reading assessment, 53% of Blatchley students were proficient or above in reading. Principal White mentioned in particular school takeaways, focusing on school-wide increases for reading, current implementation strategies to bolster daily academic performance, as well as standardized test scores include targeted interventions, tutoring after school, looking at other supports that are specifically targeted to identify individual student needs, as well as school-wide enrichment intervention periods 3 days a week for students. Principal Lundvik at Sitka High School reported that Sitka High MAP data revealed that students have recovered to the baseline RIT levels that Sitka High School students had prior to COVID. Math mean RIT for Sitka High School 9th graders in spring of 2018 was 235.9. In 2021-22, it was 235.7. Reading mean RIT for 9th graders in spring of 2018-19 was 225.5. In 21-22, it was 226. Sitka High continues to work to improve overall student outcomes in all areas. Some of the strategies in place include study field classes that are available at every class period of the day to provide additional support for students and teacher-supported after-school tutoring. So that's a quick kind of summary of some of the data that we have been seeing and some of the reports that we received with the Alaska Star. I want to move on to student activities and just kind of talk a little bit about student activities. I held 2 community-wide listening sessions on Proposition 1 Student Activities Fund. And we also had a survey on the district website. I want to just take a moment to talk a little bit about some of the results of that survey. Feedback from the listening session included the following suggestions, and I won't go through all of them, you can see them, but a couple that were key, of course. Support regional travel first, and we're talking about student activity travel, not necessarily for special events. Helps offset fundraising needs. Create a system to designate funding once we know how much is coming in from dedicated sales tax. And of course, keep player fees, maybe make it a little less to keep a buy-in for the activities. As we look at the online survey, we had 70 participants in that survey. The largest number of respondents to the survey were parents, followed by SSD staff members. The district had identified various priorities to the fund this fall and asked the community to rank those on the survey and provide any other feedback they wished. The top priority for survey respondents was student activity travel support, nearly tied with capping the activity participation fee to a yearly rather than a per activity fee, and supporting a student activity scholarship fund was a close third. We had 38 out of 70 respondents to the open-ended survey question. Do you have any other ideas for the student activity fund? Some of the feedback included these above. Again, this is just a sample of the 38 pieces of feedback we received. Target it towards lower income students who otherwise could not participate, especially travel costs. Equally supporting travel for academic activities as well as athletic activities if possible. I would prefer that all students get a share of these funds to subsidize their participation in activity of their choice. support field trips at the elementary school, used directly for kids, and help everyone please. These are just some of the feedback that we received. The committee is going to, the next steps for this is to, really look at formation of a Student Activities Fund Advisory Committee. And that committee will review feedback data and start putting together recommendations for the use of the CBS Student Activities Fund funding. And I'll also be sharing the results of our survey and the feedback from our listening sessions, as we continue to move forward. I'm excited to report that as of yesterday afternoon, I stopped by Blatchley this morning and everybody was saying, "It's so hot in here." But all the new heat pumps at Blatchley are running and that there is heat to the building. These are a picture of the new heat pumps at Blatchley, and as you can see, they look a lot different than the previous ones. I just want to take a moment to thank the contractors who had band-aided the old ones to keep the heat going to the building in the interim, and for all the work getting the new ones installed and getting them up and running. I also just want to take a moment to thank the City of Sitka and the Assembly for their support in making these repairs happen. And lastly, in other announcements, we have, as was mentioned earlier, upcoming winter concerts, so check your school's calendar or the district website. On the 13th of December, there will be a Building a Bridge to Kindergarten Family and Community Dialogue taking place at Kikushihine. That's December 13th, next Tuesday. Winter break starts on December 19th and will go through January 4th. School starts back on January 5th. And I mentioned this already, but there'll be a joint assembly work session on January 19th in the next year. And that concludes the superintendent report. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, more of a comment about the new fund because of the ballot measure one. Yes. When we're talking about prioritizing that funding, I know that we're still in this conversation over time, but I think it's important to address which schools require the most when it comes to activities funding. Like I know personally for the high school and for high school activities, we're traveling many times a month sometimes, and that adds up. You're talking about a $200 trip every single month. It adds up over time. So making sure that, and I recognize that other schools also do that travel, but when it comes to that, when you have to buy a plane ticket, making sure that that funding is going towards where the largest costs are, especially for lower income students, I think should be a priority.
And I think the intent of Proposition 1 was to look towards student activities and associated travel, and the majority of that travel is at the high school level. And I think that's where holding that committee together to have the discussions, look at that, get the feedback, and look at how best to utilize the funds. Also, as we are looking at what those funds are going to be, because at this point we won't know that until we see that and what that might. We have some estimates of where that ultimately we think will end up being, but I think that's where that advisory committee will be helpful to look at, and the use of the funds might be different this year, or when they come in and we start utilizing those funds, to the year after and the year after, as more funds come in, how it's utilized, if there are other areas. And so I think having a committee that is put together and representative of the community, of the board, of the staff, and just to be able to look at and reflect on what the needs are, and kind of best prioritize based on the most current information. So
Across the board, I think adding on to that, one of the biggest goals that the district has always had and has always worked to address is equity. So with that, thank you for putting in, and the others who put in the work to have the listening sessions to gather that information. And thank you to all the community members who have reached out to us and letting us know how they feel those funds should be used. And I highly encourage, when those surveys go out, that families please do try to participate. One voice makes a big difference. Thank you, Mr. Hauser, for your report. Moving on to item 13, new business. 13A is the adoption of a new agenda order. Could I have a motion for this agenda item?
I move to adopt the new agenda item order as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I wish.
Second, yeah.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the change in the order of the agenda for regular school board meetings beginning January 4th, 2023. Is there any public comment? Chris, anyone on the line? Just checking. Any board discussion? Mr. Gaba?
Yeah, I just want to clarify what we're voting on here because we've had several different conversations about this at our last meeting, at our work session. I just want to clarify that we're voting on adding that additional item that will be public comment on any item on the agenda, right next to any item off the agenda, but then that will still have public comment on individual items. Is that correct?
Correct.
Cool. Thank you.
Is a move to encourage that community connection. And as you know, there can be varieties of how long school board meetings can be. They could be very short, they could be very long, and depending on the situation or item on the agenda, as to respect the families that have other engagements, children to attend, it was thought to assist families in being able to assure them that there will always be a time on the agenda where their voice can be heard, and it would respect their time as well to their other prior engagements. So it's a move for the board to show that we really do care about growing that connected aspect to our families and our community members who would like to speak on matters that may come up in the future. So thank you for that clarification. So the motion on the table is to approve the new order of the agenda of the regular school board meetings beginning January 4th, 2022. Is there any opposition to the motion? Yes. Seeing none, the motion passes. Moving on to item 13B, substitute pay scale approval. It is an adjustment to the pay scale for substitutes. Could I have a motion for this agenda item?
I move to approve the substitute pay scale as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the substitute pay scale as presented. Is there any public comment? Any online, Mr. Brown? Thank you. Any board discussion?
Just for clarification, what's highlighted in green is the changes?
That would be the changes, correct?
Mr. Hauser, what I think for public sake and for transparency, can you speak to?
Yeah, just
quickly.
Yeah, quickly as we look at this for current year, as we looked at some of the cost adjustments that happened with some of the new negotiated contracts and the secretary and the hours required to work, what we found for non-certificated and the secretaries is when we looked at the requirements for the time, you saw that there was a disparity between the hourly rate that was created. And so what we wanted to try to do is to level that out and balance that. So if you look at what the current year was for an 8-hour sub that was working 8 hours, they were actually getting a lower hourly pay. And what we're trying to do is balance that out so the hourly pay went up and was reflective. If you worked the extra hour to be a secretary, you saw an increase over what the non-certificated sub rate was of 125. And so we were just trying to balance out that the hours for them to be able to work, and what the cost would be for that extra hour, and make sure it's comparative across the board for that work that was being done.
Thank you for that. Motion on the table is to approve the substitute pay scale as presented. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, we will now take a roll call.
Felix Myers,
Yes.
Tristan Gavon,
Yes.
Mitch Mork,
Mitch Moore,
Oh, he's
for the
gone.
record, has been excused.
Todd Gebler,
Yes.
Blossom Teal Olson,
Yes,
Melanie Board.
Yes.
motion passes. Moving on to item 13C, the Universal Breakfast Program, SSD Universal Breakfast for fiscal year 23. Recommendation for the first breakfast meal to be served to all students be free. Let's see. For the students for the remainder of the school year. I am losing my screen, one moment. Let me pull it up here. Can I have a motion for this agenda item?
I move to approve the Universal Breakfast Program as presented.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Universal Breakfast Program as presented. Is there any public comment? Any board discussion?
I just have a question about that. So does that mean that for the year 2023, or for like the rest of the school year, there's going to be a universal breakfast program?
That's correct. Yeah, for the rest of the school year, breakfast will be available for all students free of charge, starting on December 8th.
December 8th.
Great.
Fantastic.
And May 24th is the end of school.
That would be the last day of school, correct?
Thank you for that clarification. I do want to state that since our contractor is Management Services, and for the public record, I am, and my family as well, are NANA shareholders. I will be abstaining from this roll call vote. The motion on the table is to approve the Universal Breakfast Program as presented. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, we will now take a roll call vote on the motion.
Felix Myers,
Yes.
Tristan Gavon,
Yes.
Todd Gebler,
Yes.
Melanie Board.
Yes.
It has passed. Thank you. Moving on to item 13D. Mr. Hames and 5 students will be traveling to Bellevue, Washington from February 16th to the 19th, 2023 to participate in the All Northwest Honor Music Festival. On a side note, that is amazing. May I get a motion for this agenda item?
I move to approve Andrew Haynes' request to travel out of state with students to participate in the All Northwest Honor Music Festival from February 16th to the 19th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any public comment? Any board discussion? I do have to say, for the record, my mother was born and raised in West Seattle, and I love West Seattle myself and Seattle in general, and I had the privilege of growing up with a mother who was very skeptical of Bellevue, and over the years I have fond memories of her comments seeing it grow, and one of her very last comments, seeing Bellevue as it is today, she said, "Well done." and that's all she would say. So personally, I'm very excited for our students who get to participate, not only because they have worked extremely hard, but they get, once again, to represent the Sitka School District in such a way that would make us all very proud to be Sitkans. So, getting back to the motion on the table. The motion on the table is to approve Andrew Hames' request to travel out of state with students to participate in the All Northwest Honor Music Festival from February 16th to the 19th, 2023. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, motion passes. Congratulations, I wish them all the best. Moving on to item 13E. Executive session, number 1, long-term leave of absence request. Number 2, attorney-client communication, pending SEA arbitration. And 3, superintendent evaluation quarterly check-in. Description: the school board reserves the right to go into executive session as and to the extent permitted by AS 44.62.310 and Board Bylaw 9321. An executive session may be called to consider the following subjects. Number 1, matters the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the district. Number 2, subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion. Number 3, matters which by law, municipal charter, or ordinance are required to be confidential. And number 4, matters involving consideration of government records that by law are not subject to public disclosure. I have a motion to go into executive session.
I move that the board go into executive session in accordance with and under the provision of Alaska Statute 44.62.310C2. The matter to be discussed are a long-term leave of absence request, the pending SEA arbitration, and the superintendent evaluation quarterly check-in. Mr. Hauser, Mr. Sedor, Ms. Himshoot, and Mr. Pike are invited.
Is there a second?
I don't see Mr. Cedar.
He'll be on the phone.
Oh, go ahead, okay. Sorry, I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for long-term leave of absence request, attorney-client communication for the pending SEA arbitration, and the superintendent evaluation quarterly check-in. Mr. Hauser, Mr. Sedor, Ms. Hemshoot, and Mr. Pike are invited. Is there any public comment? Any board discussion? All right, the motion on the table is to go into executive session for long-term leave of absence request, attorney-client communication. For the pending SEA arbitration and the superintendent evaluation quarterly check-in. Mr. Hauser, Mr. Sedor, and Ms. Hemshoot are invited.
Mr. Pike, too.
Mr. Pike as well. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes. We will now enter executive session at 7:54 p.m.
Be in the Eagle Room. So, and we'll be in the Eagle Room. And then, Chris, would you let, I don't know if Melanie's still on, but
I let her know.
you'll call her?
That you will call her.
Okay, perfect, good, excellent.
Can we take stuff with us?
Oh, yeah.